Okay, we are continuing on in Mishlei 13:14. Toras Chacham Makor Chaim Lasur Mimokshe Maves. Who wants to translate?
The way of a chacham,
The way of a Chacham. Interesting.
or yeah, direct. Oh, it's right there. That's sort of direction or instruction or law of a chacham.
Right. Okay, yeah. So let's go. So I that it is right there. That's true. I would say teaching law, or I see where they get direction from, because it says like in the first instance from casting, like casting lots, like yara, like to throw. Um, we'll say direction. We'll go with that. But I would put it in this order. I'm pretty sure. I don't know why. I don't know what their orders are based off of. But I feel like teaching is the more common one. But I don't know. Maybe I'm biased. Okay. Yeah. Of a wise man
Is a source of life.
is a source of life. I actually want to see how they translate makor. So we definitely use makor as source, but I always forget whether the primary meaning is wellspring and the secondary meaning is source, or if it's the other way around. Spring or fountain, yeah. So wellspring is the primary meaning. So let's just say wellspring or source of life. Lasur mimokshe maves.
To turn away or
Yeah,
to turn from the traps of death,
yeah. From the traps.
snares of death.
Yeah, let's say snares of death. Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, so that we have here yeah, a mokesh is a bait or a lure in a fowler's nest. What is going on here? Will not pierce nostril of hippopotamus. Did not think I would ever encounter that sentence in my life. I didn't think you could snare a hippopotamus. That seems like a dangerous endeavor. Okay, fine. So I'm not going to read through these things. Okay. Now, I got to warn you, by the way, this pasuk has very few commentaries on it, which shocked me. So we have no Metzudas Tion, we have no Sadigon. We have the Targum, who pretty much seems to say this straight out. Nimosa de Hakima, Mabue de Chaye. Lemiste min pacha demos. I think that's just a literal translation. The only thing I wanted to highlight here is nimus. For those who know the definition that I always quote from the Rambam of Torah, it's a nimus, or he's nimus. He says a regimen. So I like translating as a regimen. So you actually you could also say that. You could say system. Usage is law, or yeah, that's what it says. Law. Okay, fine. Art Scroll says, so I think the Targum is just normal. Art Scroll says the teaching of the wise man is a source of life. To turn, interesting. They put the word him in there, to turn him away from the snares of death. I think we'll have a question from that. Rav Hirsch says that the teaching of the wise is a source of life, to remain far from the snares of death. I mean, I understand how he's getting at, but lasur is literally to turn away from. So I'm not going to treat that as a literal translation. Alter says a wise man's teaching is a wellspring of life, to swerve from the snares of death. All right, that's fine also. Okay, so yeah, clean wording here. So what are the questions? Yeah, Isaiah.
Yeah, what do we make of the fact that there aren't like opposites in this pasuk?
Okay,
Like,
yeah.
yeah,
So let's just say, what is the relationship between the two halves of the pasuk? Considering that they're not exact opposites. Now, when I say not exact opposites, at least in terms of Mishleic actors, okay, right? In other words, snares of death could conceivably be the opposite of a wellspring of life, but yeah, Rifki.
Yeah, also on opposites, I guess, like what is the actual definition of Torah Chacham? And then also, I'm assuming the opposite of that would be the Mom Keshe, whatever, Maves.
Yeah. Okay, so let's split this into two questions. I guess, how is the word Torah, sorry, how is the word Torah being used here? And then what is the Torah of a Chacham? Okay, and I'm gonna say, okay, let me just clarify this here. Okay, how is the word Torah being used here? So first, is it being used as a proper noun or common noun? Okay, and if the latter, which translation do we use? And I'll remind you, for those who were not here last week, or for those who forgot last week, we had Baz Ladavar Yichabelo V'Yirei Mitzvah Hu Yishulam, and we saw that mitzvah was not necessarily a mitzvah of the Torah, not necessarily a mitzvah of Hashem. It was like a Mishlei mitzvah, So to here, Torah might not be like the Torah of Hashem, and in fact, if I just read this, the Torah of a Chacham, I wouldn't say that it's that like it's automatically Hashem's Torah. So I guess where's the Torah of a Chacham? Is this talking about the Torah, okay, capital T, from a Chacham, or does the Chacham, or is it referring to some other kind of Torah from a Chacham? Okay, and Rick, you asked this as one question, which I think is fine. I'm just listing this too, just so our minds are operating on both levels. Yeah. Okay. What else? Yeah, Ayala.
Also more definitions, like what does makor chayim mean? And I think Rifki may have said, what does mokshe and mavis exactly mean?
Okay, yeah. So what does makor, okay, and I'll put this in here, wellspring or source mean in this context? And I'm gonna say also, is this literal or figurative? Okay, so if it's a wellspring, then it's probably figurative. But if it is source, then source of life could easily be a literal statement. Okay, and then what I'm going to split this into two as well, which is what is meant by chayim, life, in this context. Okay, and usually we have like what I guess what are our usual, not that we have to do usual stuff, but what are some possibilities of like what chayim means? I feel like there's like at least three low-hanging fruit.
Literal life.
Yeah, literal life, like literal, like being alive. Yeah, what do you say, David?
The good.
Okay, or a good life. Okay, or eternal life. Yeah, eternal life. Or something else. Let's say, something else. Yeah. Okay. And was there another question you asked? I like how it corrects it to Chaim Zifkin's name when I spelled it that way. Hold on, there was another thing. Oh yeah, mokshe mavis, right? So what is meant by death, by mavis? Okay, death in this context. Okay, etc. I'm not gonna write those all out again. And then actually, there's another thing. A good life. There's sometimes Chaim we've seen is used for like good stuff in general. Okay, like the kind of life when you're kicking back with a pina colada and you say, this is the life. Mishlei does use it that way, and so death can have those four things as well. And then what is the meaning of snare in this context? And then again, is this figurative or literal? I mean, obviously a snare is a figurative thing, but like you can be ensnared by something, I mean, it depends on how you say it. And then, let's just, for the sake of thoroughness. All right, I'll wrap it into the question. Okay. Which is no, I'll make it a new question. How does this chayim come from this makor? Okay. And then let's do the other part. What makes, I didn't ask the snare question, did I? I just said it. Oh, I did. Okay. And then let's say here, like, what makes these snares lethal? Yeah. David Isaiah?
Yeah, so I think Dev and I both have a question, but my question is, so is this pasuk like prescriptive, like telling you to do something regarding Torah's chacham in order so that you won't in order to turn away from mokshe mavis, or is it saying like this is an effect of Torah's chacham, like is it telling you what to do, or is it just telling you about a natural consequence.
Okay, so
Something,
it's an interesting
something
way
else.
that you're asking the question. I like the way you're asking the question, and my initial temptation was to just like convert this into our usual question. But I'll write the way you're asking it, which is, okay, is this pasuk descriptive, okay, as it appears, or prescriptive? That's not prescriptive. And if the former, what is the practical like application? Yeah, David.
Yeah. Does the Torah Chacham not have a standing on its own? I'm asking because the Lamed and Lasur seems like it's only serving to turn away. So I just read two questions. One, does Torah Chacham not have its own standing? And then going back to the relationship of the two halves. Yeah, so only standing does it stand on its own, and what's its relationship that specifically moves you from what then sounds like to be the natural state of going toward these snares?
Okay, I don't know if I follow that question. Can you say it simpler?
Okay. Okay. Last sword sounds like it's this thing serves to turn away from something else.
Okay, and
Which
what do you
sounds-
mean by this thing?
The Torah Chacham.
Okay.
Okay, which sounds like Torah Chacham is not the if say Moshe Mavet were to not exist, then Torah Chacham would not be necessary or not.
So that's where I'm not following you, because that seems to be ignoring the first, or I guess the second quarter of the pasuk. It is saying Torah of the Chacham is a source of life, right?
Yes.
So isn't that saying that it has its own standing? Like, in other words, if you didn't have, oh yeah, maybe I'm just missing something, or we're just reading the pasuk in two different ways.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, the way I'm seeing it is, it's saying that there are two qualities of the Torah's Chacham. It is the source of life, and it turns you away from snares of death, and they're interrelated, you know, which you can say, what is the connection between the two halves, which is kind of what we were saying in this question. I'll just say also, like, in other words, what is the relationship between the source of life function and the turning away from snares of death function? But is there another way to read it? Did you have another way to read it that I'm missing, Devin?
Okay. I mean, maybe just my intuition is taking it a little bit different. That like I'm reading more on the Lamed than you are, and then
Yeah.
I mean, it just seems like maybe it's just a difference. But okay.
Okay. Yeah. And then, okay, we did both David and Isaiah, right? Or did you have another? Okay, so Charlotte.
I'm with David on this one. The Lamed
Okay.
is really bothering me. It doesn't make sense.
Okay, so
yeah,
okay, go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I want to hear how the way that you would express your bother.
It seems very unnecessary. The to turn, it would be like the Lamed is unnecessary, so you could read it without.
How?
Sur mime- sur
Well,
mime-
that would be a command, right? This is like explaining what is explaining one of the benefits of the Torah of the Chacham, which is that it turns you away from from snares of death.
Okay, what about removing the double mem, the first mem? Like, it could be like a piece of advice: turn away from the snares of
Right,
death.
but that's not what it's saying, though, right? Like that would be a different sentence, right?
I just don't see any correlation between the two. Like, I don't even see it as opposites. Like, one could be the result. One could be
Okay,
like,
let me think of an analogy in English, just to break us out of the way that we're coming at this pasuk in different ways. Give me 1 second. Like, if I said, like, take eat oranges, which are let's say eat lemons. We'll do the classic one. Lemons, which are a source of vitamin C to avoid scurvy at sea. Okay, so I'm saying here's lemons. I'm telling you what to do. Now again, yeah, maybe that's the weirdness, but let me just go with this for a second. Eat lemons. Then I'm saying what they are. They're a source of vitamin C, and the purpose of eating lemons is to avoid. So maybe the thing that's bothering both of you is and maybe this was bothering Isaiah as before, is it feels like there should be an imperative somewhere in the pasuk, do this to do that. And since there's no imperative, the mind wants to like inject an imperative there.
Right.
Is that what's bothering you? Okay. All
But
right.
your example makes a lot of sense because one is the consequence of the other.
Right. Whereas if you said lemons, which are a source of vitamin C, to avoid scurvy at sea, then that's not a complete sentence.
Right. And
Okay.
that's equivalent to the Mishlei saying, whatever you.
Okay, yeah. Okay, good. Now I understand the question. Okay, so this really does stem from Isaiah's question, I think, which is that so is this pasuk descriptive as it appears or prescriptive? and if it's descriptive, where like it reads funny because there's a to without a command, which is like not, which is
Right,
like,
it seems like a result as opposed to a command.
yeah, okay, we're defining syntax, yeah. Okay, yeah, it seems like a result instead of a command. Yeah, that's a good way to say it. In other words, it seems like a result rather than a command. Okay, good. I'm glad we got to the bottom of that. Okay. Okay. Yeah, we'll keep this here for posterity. Okay. Ayala.
So I was gonna ask, who is turning away from the snares of death? Is it the person, the chacham, or if there's an audience who's
Right.
being benefited by the
Okay,
wellspring of
good.
life?
Yeah, that was like the art scroll put in the word him, right? So where is this here? So who is being turned away from the snares of death? The chacham himself, or someone else? Yeah. David Isaiah.
Okay, yeah. Again, I think we both have questions, but my question's actually back on what David was asking about. I think I understood what he was saying, and I think I'm still stuck on it.
Okay.
So to me, it sounds like this pasuk is saying that the Torah of Chacham is a Mikor Chaim, for the purpose of turning away from the snares of death.
Yeah.
But that seems like Mikor Chaim sounds like it's not, Makor Chaim is not just in order that you turn away from the snares of death. It's a Makor
Okay.
Chaim. It's its own,
Okay.
it's its
That's
own
a problem.
wellspring.
Okay. All right. So the question is, let's put this over here, is to say that the Torah of a Chacham is a source of life to turn away from the snares of death makes it sound like the function of source of life is only good insofar as it turns you away from the snares of death.
Yeah, David says this is what he meant.
Okay, good. But if but isn't the source of life a good in its own right? Okay, in other words, like, shouldn't the pasuk say that there are two functions, okay, not like and not characterize the source of life as a means to an end? Yeah, okay, good. Okay, good. I'm glad. See, this is a good methodology lesson. You got to be stubborn with your intuition and try to articulate it clearly and recruit people to help you. Yeah.
Using that last one right now. Oh, I had a different question. Yeah.
Sorry, say again, Avital?
Can you just explain that question again?
Yeah, do we need to pull out the lemons again? Okay, so let's go back to the lemons. If I said, we'll insert the word eat here just for sanity. Eat lemons, which are a source of vitamin C to avoid scurvy at sea. So if you're talking to a nutritionist, they would say, what do you mean? Vitamin C does a lot of good things. It's not just to avoid scurvy at sea. Like, are you really saying that that's the only reason that you should consume lemon, or that you should have vitamin C? So that's what's bothering David, because it sounds like it's saying that this is a source of life only in order to turn away from the snares of death.
Okay,
Yeah,
got
I
it.
knew we should leave this up here. It's good. It's a great sentence. I'm gonna be thinking about this sentence all week. Yeah. Okay. Isaiah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, just my other question too, not on this. The question number 2 we have is it talking about capital T Torah?
Yeah.
Is this only valuable if it's from the Chacham? Like, is Torah itself is not from a
Okay,
Chacham
right.
not valuable here?
That's a good question. And if it's a capital, if it's Torah with a capital T, I like putting this in parentheses. If it's Torah with a capital T, then does the Torah only have this effect when it comes from a Chacham? Doesn't Torah intrinsically do this? Okay. I actually want to deviate for a second and read something to address a point that Charlotte raised last time. Okay. So last time, I don't remember the exact details, but if you don't follow this next point, like, don't worry about it because I'm kind of referencing something from last time. So actually, let me just pull up last pasuk, Mishlei 13:19.
I was in class last time.
Weren't you? At the very beginning?
I don't recall.
Yeah, you were. Okay, I'll remind you of your question. Why is this not coming up? And I remember this because it was the only time I was in Florida while I was giving giving class. So David said something like, okay, the pasuk. Okay, the pasuk is here. So the pasuk said, one who mocks a thing will be wounded by it, but one who fears a mitzvah will be rewarded. And David said something like, shouldn't we do mitzvahs not for their reward? And then you asked, why is David coming into this pasuk with a preconceived notion, from outside? Shouldn't we let the pasuk speak on for itself? And I said that I do think there are two classes of psukim here. So I wanted to read. Close your eyes to not read the rest of this commentary, but the Rav Yosef Kimchi, that's the Radak's father, does say, he says, Ein kavanas lahanas tashlumin lo yisurin. Sorry. Ach kasher yaseh mitzvos. When a person does the mitzvos, here I'll censor this part so we don't see what he says. Ach kasher yaseh mitzvos. When a person does the mitzvos, ein kavanas lahanas tashlumin lo lefachad yisurin. A person's intention should not be for compensation, nor should it be for fear of punishment. Im bavur ahavaso Hashem yisbarach bilvad. It should just be for love of God. That's the highest level of serving God. Kain amru rabbeinu zal. The second half of the sentence says, don't be like servants who serve their master to receive a prize, rather be like servants who serve their master to not receive a prize. So this, I'm not saying that this makes it right, but the fact that he says exactly what David's question was, and he connects the two psukim, that's why I don't want you to look at this part. So you see that there is precedent for coming in with a preconceived notion about how, Torah philosophy, and asking a question on that. So I just wanted to bring that up before I forgot it. Not really relevant to ours, but also since we're talking about Torah, then if this is Torah with a capital T, maybe we have to bring in our assumptions about Torah. Okay, Avital.
Yeah, I don't know if this is kind of already question number 6, but I was just thinking in terms of the idea, or let's say we think in general that Chachma is a good source of so many things in life.
Yeah.
But in terms of death, is the word death used just to be an opposite to Chaim, or is there more, I guess, to this? I guess I'm kind of wondering, why is Mavet used, because it seems so specific almost.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say I feel like you could ask that question on both of them, right? Both life and death.
You could say it with Torah Chacham also.
Say it again.
I was
why
just raise my hand and say you could say it with Torah Chacham also.
Okay, so to me that's a little bit different, and maybe it's because I don't understand Avital's question. Is that, Avital, are you saying that if death is a very specific fate? So if it just means something, if it means anything general, I guess a bad life or suffering, why use such a specific term? Is that your question?
Yeah, because I feel like Torah's Chacham, like we talk about so many things that having to do with like how it makes your life better in all sorts of ways, but like specifically to like turn away from, like if you're going to turn away from things like, okay, like death is like that's just the end, you know?
Okay,
Like
right,
what about all
right.
the other bad things,
I see,
like
right.
looking at Eov, you know? Like
Okay, right. So, and why, I guess why frame this in such a specific way? Now, I will point out, and this could cut both ways. You know who else? Okay, well, actually, yeah, this could cut both ways. I'll just show it to you because I'm thinking about it. Where is this? Moshe Rabbeinu. Right, Moshe Rabbeinu says in Devarim, wait for it, 30:15. See, I've placed before you today the life and the good and the death and the bad. So you could, I mean, I know that's a different pasuk, but like this could be hearkening to that. In other words, like the reader of Mishlei is going in with the assumption that the Torah is something that brings you to life, and that and death is like the opposite of that. So maybe it just is referencing that, and like and if we didn't have that, then maybe Shlomo wouldn't say this. So I just wanted to point that out. Okay, David.
Yeah, is Torah Chacham the only thing that can turn you away from Moshe Mavet, or are there other things as well?
Okay, that's a fair question. And it's a fair question in the sense that like it's a good question. I don't know if we can answer it based on this, like I don't know.
I mean, I'm more pointing toward if there's something like exclusive about Torah Chacham that provides this versus.
Okay, so let's say let's put that in the question about how does Chaim come from this makor, and let's say like is this the only is this exclusive? Meaning like is the Torah of a Chacham the only way to get Chaim? And I'm just gonna capitalize it. Yep. Okay. Yeah, Rifki.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit already leaning towards like an approach question, but do you have like any suggestions on whether or not to take Torah as like with a capital T or not? Because I'm just struggling with that.
Yeah. My inclination is to take it. Okay, well, okay. I was gonna say my inclination is to take it either way. No, but yeah. See, I don't know if I'm just being influenced by last time. Okay, I think I'm being influenced by last time and by the phrase Torah of a Chacham, because last time it just said mitzvah and it was a mishleic mitzvah. So I feel like this is a mishleic Torah, like just a regular teaching. And the fact that it has possessive, the Torah of a Chacham, and the fact that regular Torah, Torah itself is like a source of life, So I feel like I'm inclined to say that this is not talking about Torah with a capital T for those three reasons. Yeah. Okay, I feel like we have the main questions. I guess we do have to ask who is the audience. Who is the intended audience? And let's ask Ariel's question as well, which is what is the subject of this pasuk? Actually, it's Ryan Moskowitz's question. Okay, but Ariel likes asking it. Not that questions have ownership. Okay, and I also want to point something else out. So this is an extrinsic question, okay? But anytime, I don't know if you saw this in the shiur chat, in the teaser, but like, this is one of the Rambam's, depending how you count it, 16 MIshneh Torah pasukim. Okay, so background information: the Rambam wrote the only code of Jewish law that covers all of Jewish law, all 613 mitzvos, and he divided it into 14 books of the Mishneh Torah. And each book starts off with a pasuk, okay? And it's like a puzzle kind of, like what exactly is the Rambam doing with these pasukim? And I don't fully have a picture of what he's doing with them. But the only way to get that picture is to work them out one at a time. And the reason why I say there's 16 is because there's one pasuk that the Rambam starts every book that he wrote with, which is oops, clicked on the wrong thing, which is B'Shem Hashem Kel Olam, in the name of Hashem, the eternal God. And then the MIshneh Torah, the crowning pasuk of the whole MIshneh Torah is Azlo Evosh B'Habiti Al Kol Mitzvosecha. Then I will not be ashamed or embarrassed when I look at all your mitzvos. And I'm just going to lead into this one because this is going to be for book 4. Okay, so book 5 says Sefer Hamada, which says Mishoch chastecha liyodecha v'tzidkascha liyishrei lev. Extend your kindness to those who know you and your righteousness to the upright of heart. So you can see why Sefer Hamada, which is the book about mitzvahs that have to do with the fundamentals, is about knowledge of God. There's a certain like intuitive sense for that pasuk. Okay, Sefer Ahava is the book that is about mitzvahs that you do daily or on a continual basis to remind you of loving God. So he says, Ma'ahavti Torasecha kol hayom hisichasi. How much I have loved your Torah, all day it is my conversation. So there too, it's very easy to see what this has to do with Sefer Ahava, because the book is about mitzvahs that are continually in application. And he's talking about, he talks about Torah all day. Okay. Zmanim is about the calendar mitzvos. And the pasuk is Nachalti edvosecha leolam ki sason li bihema. I've inherited your testimonies forever, for they are the joy of my heart. And the testimonies refer to the mitzvos that remind us of historical events. And that's basically like almost all the mitzvos in Sefer Zmanim. So Shabbos reminds us of Bereshis, Chamit Matzah reminds us of the Yetzias Mitzrayim, Sukkot reminds us of the Adonai Kavod, or the Sukkot in the desert. But then you get to Sefer Nashim. Okay, so what is Sefer Nashim? So I'm just going to read you the introduction to Sefer Nashim. Sefer Nashim is the book of women, and he says Sefer Nashim, Sefer Revi Eklo Bo Mitzvos Shel Beila Kigon Kiddushin V'Gerushin V'Yibum V'Chalitza. These are the mitzvos that pertain to intercourse. Okay, not prohibited intercourse. That's in Sefer Kedusha, but like the institution of intercourse. So it's the laws of Kiddushin, of betrothal, Gerushin, divorce, Yibum, levirate marriage, and Chalitza, of getting out of levirate marriage. Okay, so like you could say it's okay, and if you want to break it down even further, we'll see in a second. Oh, sorry, we'll see right now. It is the laws of ishus, marriage, gerushin, divorce, yibum v'chalitza, levirate marriage, and the opposite process, nara basula, the virgin maiden, and then sota, of the woman who's accused of adultery after being in seclusion. So here, what pasuk does he choose? Toras chacham makor chaim lasur mimokshe maves. What? So it's always, this one has bothered me maybe the most out of all the psukim in all of the Rambam's crowning psukim. So if this is, again, totally extrinsic question, but I'm going to list it because I've had my eye on this question for decades. Okay, so why does the Rambam use this as the crowning pasuk for his book about mitzvos regulating intercourse? Okay, it's just strange, and the thing is like, if this was about prohibited intercourse, then I would understand it, because snares of death is associated with like the in Mishlei, there's a character of the Eshes Chai, which everyone knows, and then there's the character of the strange woman or the foreign woman who's always trying to like seduce the youth. I get that, but we're talking about like Kiddushin, about like regular marriage, like it's just a weird pasuk to use, So if we can answer that, then that's bonus points. I'll give you fake extra credit. Okay, so let's copy and paste these questions into the chat. Are we going to do it in 2 or in 3? Let's try doing it in 2. Oh, it doesn't do 1 through 8. So let's try 1 through 7. Okay, we got 1 through 7. And now let's go 8 through 15. It's not going to do it. There's no way it's going to do this. Nope, didn't do it. Okay. We're going to have to make 3 trips to the car for the groceries, kids. All right, 8. I got to change the thing. Hold on. Can someone go through all of my Mishlei videos and do a supercut of all the times that I complained about the chat limitation on Zoom, and then we'll send it to Zoom, and then they'll like comp us for free for Zoom for the rest of eternity? because they'll be like, oh, we never thought of this before. You're so you're so you're such a designer, okay, of programs. Okay, let's take our thinking minute. Ooh, I got an idea.
Can I just ask you to go over what we speak about of like what the chacham is? Because
Sorry, say
it's
that
like,
one more time.
could you just go over like in a sentence or two what we say the like chacham is?
Yeah,
Like,
we didn't actually ask that question. We really should ask that question. Okay, which is, what is a chacham? Okay, and in this context. Now, here's the thing, okay, is that I'm actually not going to go over that right now. Oh, well, I mean, I could go over what we usually say, but it might not be wise to just plug it in, because it might be used differently here. So I'm actually not going to answer it right now. Keep our intuition free here. Okay, Isaiah, you're up.
Okay, so to start off, I'm gonna say that Torah's chacham here means like the general approach that a chacham takes. I guess
Okay.
the system that he lives by is to make decisions based on your intellect and not, follow the emotions towards their, leanings. So what that does for him is it does two things for him. It gives him life because it moves him closer to like what he was created to do, and like allows him to get like the good effects of making like good decisions. And while doing that, it is also removing him from the mokshe mavis, which are like all the like pains that can come from leading a life of like generally making emotional decisions, or like once making a really bad like decision that would be, based off.
Catastrophic.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Okay.
I don't know. Like I was thinking in terms of like where the Rambam puts it, like someone who like sleeps with an Ish or something like that.
Right.
So if you're someone who's on the Torah's chacham, so then you're less likely to do that.
Right. Okay. That's good. Let me just, one thing I didn't get before I start writing this is, how are you learning Makor Chaim?
I guess it's like the like positive outcomes that he gets from making good intellect-based decisions.
Okay, so you would go, would it be correct to say you're going with the phrase, it's like a good life, or the interpretation of good life? Okay.
Yeah.
For a good life, while simultaneously helping him to completely avoid, or not completely avoid, to steer clear of things that can be snares, not only, I guess, not, and I don't think I'm injecting this thing, I think this is what you're saying, not only bad consequences, but snares of like a bad life. For example, like committing adultery, okay, and like ruining his life. Yeah. So in other words, just by default, he's gonna avoid that. And I'm going to go ahead and say this because I've said this I know I've said this many times, but this, to me, the first time I realized this idea was in 2012 or 2013, like early on in, no, can't be. What am I saying? First time I realized this was in 2010, because it was my last semester at grad school, and I was taking the train up, and I was there during the summer. Yeah, no, maybe it wasn't. Whatever it was, I was taking the train during the summer up to YU, and from Penn Station, and there were these like Latina girls who looked like they were in high school, and they were dressed obviously in a very unsneers way because it was the summer, and they were just talking about their sexual exploits, and I remember thinking to myself, because I had just recently started teaching, like, I am teaching a bunch of girls who are the same age, okay, and emotionally, like, in terms of just the personality of a teenage girl, like, they would be indistinguishable in terms of if you like swap them at birth. I don't think they're going to turn out that much differently. But just being immersed in the system of halacha keeps these girls who I'm teaching away from so many things that can be that can happen to them. And again, I have memories. I have a memory when I was in public school I was in 6th grade, and my best friend's, I think it was like a second cousin or something like that, who was in 7th grade, got his 7th grade girlfriend pregnant, and she had to drop out of middle school, and like this is just from, just from keeping Torah, then you're going to have that. Now, I know that's not what Isaiah is saying. Isaiah is saying beyond that, like, making decisions the way that a chacham will think will like certainly ensure this, but I guess I ended up segueing into like waxing poetic into like a thing using Torah with a capital T. Yeah. Okay, good. I like that idea.
I had like so you asked kind of like, why is the pasuk used for like Hilchos Nashim and not sort of on Hilchos Kedusha, where he talks about like prohibited sexual things. So I think maybe it makes sense to be on Nashim because all the institutions of like marriage and related things are the Torah chacham that in that area that's used to like take a person away.
That's very interesting. Okay, so in other words, that's a good explanation. I was going to say explanation of the Rambam. So in other words, like this. Just to clarify here, because I realized I didn't say this. So in the Rambam, in the MIshneh Torah, so Sefer Nashim is about marriage and divorce and different forms of marriage. Sefer Kedusha is about sexual prohibitions and food prohibitions. Okay, and just to show you what he uses for Sefer Kedusha, he says, what is it? Pa'amai hachein b'imrasecha v'al tishla bi kol aven. Okay, that's another weird one. Prepare for me my footsteps with your statements, and do not let any iniquity dominate me. Okay, so what Isaiah is saying is that, I think what we were saying, Isaiah, the mokshe mavis that's sparing you from is all of the snares of death that are talked about, that you would fall into if you violate the prohibitions in Sefer Kedusha. However, the Torah of the Chacham, meaning the positive institution, is the institution of marriage. Okay, and that's why this is here. Okay, good. Let me just type that out in my notes here. So it's true that Sefer Kedusha contains the snares of death, i.e. violating the sexual prohibitions. Okay. But the reason this pasuk is here is because the Torah's chacham, i.e. the positive institution, teachings and laws are contained in the Torah's approach to marriage. Okay, that's really good. Okay, Rivki.
Okay, so I don't know if you would consider this idea similar to what Isaiah was saying, so you could just let me know. And
I also have one that I'm not sure for me if it's similar, but go ahead.
Okay, so I was thinking, like, I guess I'll start with like the snares, because I think that's really where my whole idea like developed from. So I was thinking the idea of a snare is really like, it's not just like a trap, but it's really something that you don't see, like at least in my mind.
That's good. All right, yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So I think that this way of living, like having like a direction, whatever it is, and I have like an idea for that, but having a sort of direction will prevent a person from falling into those traps. So it's not just preventing them from falling into like, making like normal mistakes, but it's even preventing them from the things that they don't see or that they won't see just by nature of the world.
Okay, that's really good. So not having I'll just say, and you're not taking a stance on exactly what the Torah's chacham is, or right in your idea?
That's my idea, but it doesn't have to be like if you don't.
Okay, right. So I'll just say for now, having a Torah's chacham will help you to avoid all of these hidden traps as well. Yeah. So just to give an example of this, I feel like I was talking about this last time. Like, yeah, I gave this example last time. Kashrus, right? So like, it's very easy to look at the system of kashrus and say like, does this really enhance your life? And isn't it just like depriving you of stuff? But when you look at the philosophy of kashrus in the framework of the Rambam, of it being an institution of kedusha, of like transcending your animalistic desires, and then like kashrus is practicing like a way of life that's contrary to the idea that physical pleasure is the good. And like viewing physical pleasure as the good is like a disastrous hidden trap. Like if that's the criterion on which you're making all your decisions, that like the life of pleasure is good, like that is a trap that like the majority of the world falls into, and this is like steering you clear of that without you even realizing it. So that's good. Yeah. And I do think, to me, it is similar to what Isaiah saying, but did you have another component of the idea you wanted to share? Yeah.
Yes, I was gonna say, just because I was thinking, and again, this could be completely off, but I was thinking why it would say chacham as opposed to tzaddik. Like, what's the
Okay, that's a fair question. Yeah.
So I was thinking that one of the things that we discussed in the past about like a quality of the chacham is that it's not that it's like a bad thing, it's just the level he's on is like he's very much in that space of like taking advice from other people and not necessarily like having like his quote unquote own kedushim or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
So I was thinking like it would be an interesting idea to think about like Torah chacham to be like going to people that you trust for advice that are like very worldly. So like whether it's like a rabbi or a parent or like your spouse, whatever it is, that you're using that person as a way to lead you in the correct direction. And that's how you're going to avoid the traps, because you're not going to be like blindly walking into any situation at any time, and you're going to have a path to go on.
Okay. So this really fits in really well with I can't apologize. I can't remember which ones you were there for. If you were there for our learning of the Sforno on Benzoma in Pirkei Avos on a Thursday night of Ezehu Chacham Halomi Mikol Adam, who is wise, one who learns from everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the Sforno here because it's exactly what you're saying. Avos for one. Oh, I had a whole separate thingy. Sforno says that that the Chacham in Ezehu Chacham Halomi Mikol Adam, who is wise, one who learns from everyone, he says, yeah. Amr ben Zoma she'oso hachacham asher bo hanavi hu hachacham b'medinios asher rov inyanim miyusar al hanisayon. This is the Navi speaking of the chacham in life wisdom, which is largely based on experience. V'zele yusag ela kishiyilman mikol adam, and that's what you will get. That's the type of chacham you get when you learn from everyone. L'man yaleb yado nisyonos rabim, so you can get other people's experiences. So I'm not saying it has to be that, but it just happens to fit in really well. So the chacham is one who is a dependent learner who receives knowledge from others. So if you seek out the teachings of a person like that, you'll get a diverse range of practical knowledge that you can use in this manner. Yeah. Okay, good. Yala.
Okay, so I want to take the audience of the pasuk differently.
Yeah.
To say that it's like it's talking to the observers of a chacham.
Okay.
And it's saying, and I guess I would define chacham. I don't have a specific definition of chacham, just like the basic one that we use or the one that Isaiah said.
Yeah.
Of someone who is a good decision maker. So saying that it's, I guess, like teaching or reminding people, telling people to look at the system or direction of a wise man and what they're doing and take lessons from their actions and decisions because it's a source of life. And then also I want to say for the second half that like first is saying that like you can just gain like positive insights from the direction of a chacham. Then it's saying like even if you're not going to be able to become the chacham by taking insights, like at least you'll be able to be saved from death.
Okay.
Like anyone can take insight from it.
Okay, that's good. So even if you don't become a chacham, you'll still avoid these snares of death, which is worth the price of admission. Okay, which is very, very small. Just watching a chacham. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, good. I like that approach to the audience. Yeah. I assume this is David.
Yeah. Okay, just going back to the Isaiah Rivki combo.
Yeah.
Okay, so I could see this pasuk being directly okay, it's like taking it one step further, maybe that making good decisions and avoiding bad decisions is not a one-time thing. It's really a lifestyle. And I'm taking that particularly from the Makor Hayim and the
Okay, good.
So, okay, so I'll start with Machshavah because I think Rivki is exactly right on the ball with that. In my thinking the same way. That particularly the snares you don't see not coming. So you can't just say, oh, I'm not going to make a bad decision when the opportunity presents itself to make a bad decision, and I'm just not going to think otherwise. You just don't know that it's coming. And then I think also the Makor Chaim, as far as being like a wellspring or something it's constantly there, and something that you do have to like it's there and presenting itself, and you must go and get it. But it's not just like a one time it presented itself. I'm going to go when I want to, but it's more like a constant thing that you're constantly going for life.
Okay, good. I like that a lot. So you this is a lifelong process. You can't avoid snares by saying I'll guard against it when I see it because you won't see it. Rather, the only way to avoid them is by constantly drawing from the wellspring of the teachings of a chacham. And I think this also is like I don't think a lot of these ideas I think work out for however you define Torah's chacham. Like I think it's and I don't think that's a problem. So I think that's really good. All right, I like that idea a lot, and that really makes use of the makor because I don't think, unless I missed a nuance, I don't really think. I mean, Isaiah did acknowledge that it's a makor chaim in the sense that this is like where all of his decisions come from, but this really I feel like has the metaphor of like a wellspring, like really takes advantage of that. So that's good. Yeah, Charlotte.
Am I allowed to ask a question to Ayala, not to you?
Yes, sure.
Ayala, I'm wondering where you got that it's talking to the observers of the chacham. Like, what word made you think that it's an observer?
I think it's from I guess I started thinking like that from the Art Scrolls translation and the question about like who is it causing to turn away from the snares of death, and because that's kind of vague, that it's not saying like to cause him to turn away from the snares of death. I think from there.
Okay,
I hear that. Yeah,
I guess okay. If it matters, I very much with Rivki and David's.
Okay, that's fine.
Like that, I think this is like mishlei or like little like nuggets, like life lessons that you need to take, like tidbits with you. So whatever. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Avital?
I don't know. I'm really struggling with this one still. Like, I don't know why I really feel like stumped by this Mishlei pasuk. Like, on the one hand, I'm like, I feel like it's like kind of simple or obvious.
Yeah.
And in other ways, I'm like, I don't know. I'm just still confused, like, A, how this is practical, and B, like, I guess what's kind of, I have to bring Ariel's question up, like, what's the chiddush?
Yeah. Okay, good. So, sorry, do you have an answer? Or you're just expressing your
No, yeah.
Okay, no, okay, good. I'm in the same position, and that's why when I started compiling the meforshim, I was so worried that so few people say anything, which might seem that like maybe it's an obvious idea, So I have one maybe non-obvious approach, but I haven't fully worked it out, so I'll share it in a second. Did someone Rivki, did you fire off the party thing?
Yeah, it was me. And I don't know if what I'm gonna say is like necessarily a chiddush. I think like to me it's just a good reminder. Because I'll give an example. That like even like today, like so in my field work, I had to make a very, very hard call today. And basically like I was just literally thinking about how like right now, like it's so hard to do that and like fall into certain mistakes and this and that. But the more that you practice something, that the less likely you will be to make that mistake. So it's not necessarily a chiddush, but I think that this is what that pasuk is speaking about, that with anything in life, that the more direction you have, then the less likely you'll be to fall into whatever mistake it is. And I think the chiddush could also be found in the snare, as opposed to just a trap. But
right. Okay, yeah, I definitely think that there's chiddush potential in several of these ideas here, and I think the best one so far in terms of like wow, that's a chiddush is David's point about the snare, of like you can't avoid snares like by seeing them, like that is so the question is like what's your plan for avoiding the snares? It needs to be something else. Okay, let me share my idea. Okay, maybe this will be a chiddush, maybe it won't. Okay, so I'm gonna tackle the most difficult question, the one that was bothering everyone with the lamed. Okay, so why would it frame it in this way, this weird way, where it's saying it's making the source of life seem like a means, merely a means of turning away from the snares of death. Okay, so what I want to say is that I didn't mean for this font to look bigger. That looks bad. Okay, it's not a bigger idea. Okay, is that although Mishlei, and I think Torah's Chacham is Mishlei. Okay, Torah's Chacham is Mishlei. Okay, and like i.e. the teachings of Shlomo, okay, who was Chacham Mikol Adam. Okay, all right, so you don't have to say Shlomo, but I think it's just poetic. Okay, fine. So even though these teachings do have the effect of being a source of life, the motive for learning Mishlei is to avoid consequences. Okay, and let me explain how this works. And I'm actually going to bust out the Koheles PowerPoint. Okay, from before. Do I have the Koheles Master PowerPoint? Yeah. Oh, look, this is oh no, it's not your year. This is the year after your year. Okay, so we're gonna go to what I call. Oh no, it's not here. Hold on. Unless you spell Triforce like that. No. Okay, so this is not the complete PowerPoint then. Hold on. I must find this. Koheles Master PowerPoint. That's very strange. Let me just, sorry, just one second. I did not know I was going to need this. Let me look in Lamdeha. No, we didn't do this in Lamdeha. Last time we did this was that year. Hold on just 1 second. Let's make this, okay. Go into teaching 2019 to 2020. That was last year I taught this. Shahavet Nach 11, fall semester. 9, okay, yeah, so it's going to be here. Nostalgia. There's Koheles, man. Okay. Okay, yeah. So this was my my mashal. Okay, so this is the Triforce, which is a sacred relic that appears throughout Nintendo's Legend of Zelda series. Okay. And this is what I call the Triforce of Chachma. Okay. So in the middle you have Torah. On the bottom of the pyramid, you have Mishlei and Koheles, and then at the top you have shiurim. Okay, and the simple one definition sentence about how these all work together is that Torah is the ultimate system for living a life of chachma. Okay, that's the regimen that brings those who practice properly to true success, which is knowledge of God to the extent possible, which gives you a good life in Olam Hazeh and eternal life in Olam Haba. Mishlei is using chachma as a means to fulfill your desires. Okay, it's about how to make decisions to get what you want, but it's not telling you what you should want or what your life should be about. That's where Koheles comes in. Koheles is the end to be desired. Okay, and that's talking about like sof davar hakol nishma es halakim mirav es mitzvosav shemor kizeh kol ha'adam. That fear of God and mitzvos is the ultimate purpose of life, and all the other lifestyles are destined to make you unhappy, or they're lacking in some way. Okay, so the system is you keep on bouncing or penduluming back and forth between Mishlei and Koheles and Mishlei and Koheles, and what this does. Oh, sorry, and then shiurim. I forgot shiurim is Ahavas Hashem is the guide for love of God, which is the ultimate destination of a life of chachma. Okay, but you can't access that until you've internalized chachma as a means, which you have to get through Mishlei and Koheles. Okay, so what happens basically? Shlomo Melech's secret plan. There's this great book, and it started off as a YouTube video by Randy Pausch called "The Last Lecture." And basically, there was this series in Carnegie Mellon where professors would come and they would give like either their actual last lecture, or if they were retiring, or if they had to give one last lecture, like what would it be? And then this guy, Randy Pausch, who was like this, I think he was a computer science professor, got pancreatic cancer, and he only had like a few months left to live. And he basically decided, I'm going to actually give my last lecture, and I'm going to try to incorporate all the life lessons that I want my very, very young kids to grow up with when they don't have me. and he talked a lot about this move that he calls the head fake, which is where you are I know it's some sports metaphor, I just don't know what the sports metaphor is, but like you act like you're really doing one thing, but you're actually teaching another lesson, and so like the recipient of the lesson doesn't realize that they're getting this other benefit. They're getting the benefit that they think that they're interested in. So here what I'm saying is like this is the student of Mishlei thinks that Shlomo is just telling him basically like how to avoid consequences in his decisions, okay? But really what he's getting is eternal life. Because what Mishlei is doing is it's attaching him to Chachma and cultivating that part of himself, which is his soul, and attaching him to the pursuit of Chachma. And before he knows it, he loves learning Chachma, and he has developed that, and he's applying Chachma in every way of his life. And now he has that, So that's my attempt to explain like what the Chiddush is, and also why it's treating wellspring of life as a means to the end of taking away from death. Because what's the basic definition of Chacham? And here, Avital, I'll tell you what, the plug-in definition of Eziu Chacham Haroes HaNolad, who is wise, one who sees the consequences of his actions. So being a Chacham is about avoiding consequences. And that's really, if you had to boil Mishlei, I asked my ninth graders today, like, if you had to boil Mishlei down to one sentence, what would it be? And my ninth grader, who always gets the answers right, said, applying critical thinking to make good decisions, and by that he means like he's saying the chacham, like avoiding consequences. So I think that is why the pasuk is worded in a weird way. Now, what's the chiddush? I mean, this is a chiddush. Is there a practical chiddush? Is the question. I'll say one thing. I don't know if this is the practical chiddush, which is that I think people who are raised religious oftentimes worry that they're not living up to like the religious values of Torah. And like Shlomo Melech's thing is, don't worry about that. Just focus on using Chachma to make good decisions. And like your nefesh will fall into place. Like you will end up becoming attached to Chachma. This will spread out into other areas, and you'll end up applying Chachma in other areas. Don't worry about like trying to like focus on Olam Haba, or like being having Avas Hashem, and like cultivating like these higher parts. That's going to come naturally. But like just avoid the thing about be selfish, right? This is why I identify as Slytherin, is like be selfish, but do it intelligently. And that's what Mishlei is showing you how to do. And once you do that, you will get the actual wellspring of life. Yes, Charlotte.
Sorry, I like literally raised my hand.
No, go ahead, Charlotte. Yeah.
You went first. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Charlotte. You're already unmuted. Yeah.
I'm thinking of like Pirkei Avot, and maybe it's not the right context, but I'm thinking like when you say Torat Chacham, I think that means someone who, I don't know if this is what Rivki said, someone who learns Torah regularly. It's like attaching oneself. Then Mikor Chaim, it's like you're attaching oneself to the source of life.
Right.
I don't know if this was said or not. Like,
yeah, I mean, maybe I'm missing the subtlety in what you're saying.
I guess I don't interpret Torah here as Mishlei. I interpret it as the literal Torah.
Yeah, I'm comfortable saying this for for other areas also. I think it just works out best with Mishlei because this is the derech of Mishlei, And I think you're gonna have a harder time saying my way I'm explaining the Lamed if you say it's about the Torah. That's why I went this way also.
Okay.
Yeah. Rivki?
That's actually what my question was about, is asking you if you could just reiterate why you're going specifically with Mishnah. Like, I understand intellectually because it makes sense, because that's what the whole book is about, but can you explain how the Lamed fits into that?
Right. So I'll just reiterate, first of all, textually I'm going with Mishlei because the previous pasuk said mitzvah, and that was a Mishleic mitzvah, so this is a Mishleic Torah. So that's what I think the primary source is. But I'm saying like our problem was this seems to be saying, so look at let's call it the Lamed problem, okay, which is that this seems to be saying that the reason for using Torah as a source of life is so that you can avoid the snares of death, right? But that's putting the cart before the horse, right? That's making the true ends into a means. Okay. And I'm saying, what framework do we involve ourselves in something that is truly the source of life as a means to a lesser end? Mishlei. Okay. And why does Mishlei do that? Because that's the best way to actually attach yourself to the source of real life. Mishlei, if you start off by telling the kid in the beginning of Mishlei, right? If Shlomo started off by saying, hey kid, learn Torah and get eternal life, and do mitzvos, it's not going to help. So what does he tell his kid? He says, don't go running with gangs and stealing from people because you're going to get caught in the snare, and then once the kid is doing that, so now he's not hanging around gangs anymore. And then he starts listening to his father saying like, well, let's work on some other stuff with Chachma. Like, do you want to make money? And he's like, yeah. Well, here's how you make money using Chachma. Do you want to like get friends? Yeah. So here's how you get friends with Chachma. And then before he knows it, the kid is involved in Chachma, and then the kid could be involved in Torah, and then he gets the source of life. But it starts off as a means. So I think it's an elegant solution to the Lamed problem, but that's my idea, so I'm biased. Okay, should we look at some meforshim? Okay, so let's start off. I posted this on Facebook this afternoon. I don't know if you remember this, but we have been without Rabbeinu Yonah for a while. Okay, and I was looking and I saw Rabbeinu Yonah, and my first reaction was, Rebbe, you're back. Because it's like I didn't know he'd be back so soon, and like I felt so so at a loss without him. So let's start with sorry, Mr. David, you're also a Rebbe, but we'll start with Rabbeinu Yonah. So he says, Kamosha makor novea es nozlav hoes, just as a wellspring flows with its flowings. This is not a very good eloquent translation. That's not even a word. Nozlav. You don't say drippings, with its flowings. Okay, at all times. All times. Gam hachacham, so too the chacham. Musarav mischadshim b'chol eis al kol bnei adam. Okay, his I'm just gonna call them Musar ideas. Okay, are produced anew at all times about all people. The el kol pulos v'inyanim hizdamin li'adam, and all activities and events that happen to them. Yichadshu chachma v'atzas tzedek. New chachma, new wisdom and righteous advice will be produced. Okay. Lasur, and I have an example of this also. Okay, so to turn away. To turn away, mish yuchach v'noat b'tochachtam v'divrei chachmasim. To turn away, one who is rebuked and advised by their rebuke and their words of wisdom from the snares of death. Okay, so in other words, so let's say what the Rabbeinu Yonah is saying, and then I'll apply to an example. So he's saying that if you hang around a chacham, and I think this is talking about mishlei chachma, but I mean, or chachma of the Torah secondarily, but like mishlei chachma is literally like every situation that the chacham encounters, he's going to be producing mishlei ideas, mishlei insights, and anything that happens to them, they're going to get insight out of, and so if you position yourself near that chacham, near the wellspring, the source of water, you're going to get all this fresh new musar at all times. Okay, so I'll give two examples. One is Rabbi Moskowitz, is my Rebbe, and like that's exactly what it was like being around Rabbi Moskowitz. Is like there's constant, like he's constantly applying mishlei to everything, and so you see like this unlimited application of mishlei to all these ideas, and you get the benefit of that from at all times. Okay, but a more selfish application is so those who follow either my Instagram, my Facebook, my WhatsApp, or my my Substack on the app, I did this experiment in January called What I'm Thinking About This Morning, which stuck, and it started as an Instagram thing. Now, I really, really, really am a loyalist when it comes to social media. And like I basically went all in on Facebook for the last like 14 years, you know, that was my social media. So when it came time to branch out to Instagram, I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. So so anytime I tried to do something, it was like, either I have to make this into a shiur or make this into an article or make this into like a Facebook post. And I know what all three of those things are like, but what is an Instagram post for me? Like, how do I use it? So what I wanted to do is I wanted to do this, what I'm thinking about this morning, to try to showcase what it's like to see the world through my brain, and through like seeing things through a Mishlei lens. And it's not all Mishlei, but like I wanted to try to capture, like, when I encounter something and I associate to a Torah idea, like I run with it, you know? And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to convey this sense, which is that everything that you encounter is Torah and Chachma and can be converted into Musar and Tochacha and advice, you know? So like I'm trying to convey this through the way I'm using these, what I'm thinking about this morning posts. Whether I'm succeeding or not, we'll find out. But like, so for example, like tomorrow is about and yes, I write it the day before. So it's what I'm thinking about this morning, but I don't tell you which morning. I write it each morning for the next day. Is like, you know, I was on a plane and there was the most annoying kid behind me. Okay. And the but what I wanted to think about was his father. His father was the worst disciplinarian ever. And he was just the examples were like, he would yell at the kid and say, if you keep misbehaving, I'm going to call the police. Okay. Another one, if you keep on doing that, then they're going to kick you off the plane. Okay. If you don't stop saying this, we're going to leave you on the plane. Okay. So I was thinking to myself, like, there are many Mishlei pasukim about disciplining your son. Okay. But I can't think of a Mishlei pasuk about giving ineffective discipline like this guy. So I had to think to myself, what would Shlomo HaMelech say? You know, so I had to like come up with my own Mishlei, you know, and like drawing upon what you know was you know, what was given. Like, that's what Mishlei does, is it gives you Mishlei thinking. Or another example is I told this to David already, is that I was talking with a friend who I went to yeshiva with a long time ago, and we were talking about Rabbi Moskowitz, and he said, you know, like a long time ago, Rabbi Moskowitz gave me a piece of advice, and I remember half of it verbatim, and the second half of it, like, I don't remember, and there are two possibilities, and I know that my psyche wants to remember it in a certain way, but I can't remember. So do you have any idea what he might have said to me, you know? So I said, I've never heard Rabbi Moskowitz say this before, but let's go through it. So I went through, like, here's everything I've heard that Rabbi Moskowitz say on this subject, and let's put together what would Rabbi Moskowitz say, you know? So there is this, like, this is like Mishlei Chiddush. Mishlei Chiddush is two things. One is it's new applications of old ideas. And the second is, you know, for the sake of intellectual insight, like, how do you apply the idea here? But also it's for the emotional impact. Like, even though you could summarize all of Mishlei by saying it's about critical decision-making to avoid bad consequences, that's not going to help anybody. You need to apply it to make it real to your emotions through many, many particulars, you know? So I think that's the type of Chiddush that he's talking about. And I know I went like off on a tangent about these examples, but like, I want to try to convey the sense. Okay, any questions about Rabbeinu Yonah?
I just had a silly thought a little bit.
Sure.
In terms of the flowings, I was still trying to think of what word would go like there. And I don't know if it actually fully works, but the word like currents, because it's like current and it's like what's
that's nice. That is silly. I like it though. It's a good kind of silly. The currents. Yeah. Okay, I like it. Okay. So let's do the Meiri. And then we'll call it a night. Kavar bi'arnu lamala. We already explained above the pasuk, in the pasuk. Ki lekach tov nasati lechem Torah si'ata zovu. Okay, many of us know that from shul. Okay, for a good teaching I have given you, do not abandon my teaching. Okay, I believe. Hold on, is that the right pasuk? Dalid, is that right, or is that a miscitation? Dalid Bays. I just want the reason why I'm going here is I want to confirm whether this is talking about Torah with a capital T or not. Shimu bani musar av hakshiva ladas bina. Ki lekach tov nasati lechem Torah siyadozovu. So we think this is talking about Torah with a capital T because we say it in shul, but plain pshat is it's talking about the musar of the av, of Shlomo, right? Or Mishlei musar. Okay. So so we've explained above Shemilas Torah, that the word Torah, Meres al kol panim, is said in any event, in many respects. Mehem al hora limud, sometimes about instruction and teaching, and learning. Mehem al shleimus amidos, sometimes about perfection of character traits. Ulfidati hahamoni, according, he doesn't mean my mind, that's mundane. According to the, what do we call it last time? Like the everyday application, or interpretation, I mean. According to the everyday interpretation, the advice and instruction of the chacham, of the path to follow, is a source of life to those who are drawn after his advice. V'inatzlu ba mikol michshel upuka, and they will be saved from every stumbling block. I don't know what a puka is, but a puka puka in Hawaii means a hole. So I feel like it's a pit. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say that, okay? And pit. Okay, I think puka is like another like disaster word. Hamavim lefamim lidei mavis, which sometimes lead to death. Okay, now Isaiah made this point, and I just want to bring it out here. Okay, one of the reasons this is answering the question about why use such a specific term, this is bothering Avital, is because really the type of decision making that's going to save you from the bad, like less severe decisions, is the same type of decision making that could save you from death, and like failure to use that decision making could actually lead to your death. So like it's giving like a worst case scenario, because this really can save you from the worst case scenario. Okay, so that's the first half of the Meiri. Second half is another interpretation, I think, but I want to put them together because I'm not entirely convinced that they're separate. Yeah, Charlotte?
I'm wondering where does the Meiri say that sometimes Torah can be described as character traits?
So apparently he says that in chapter 4, pasuk 2. So let's just really quickly look at that. Sorry, the FYI, the only place you can get the Meiri on line, unfortunately, fortunately you can get it online, but unfortunately it's on this very strange interface, is MG Keter, which, by the way, I don't say this enough. MG Keter is the most accurate Tanakh text. Okay, meaning like if you want a Tanakh text that is like, the actual text of the Tanakh is based on the most updated manuscripts, then apparently MG Keter is like one of the best.
English also?
What was that?
Is this in English as well?
I don't know. But I mean in terms of like the manuscript accuracy of the Hebrew. So yeah. Okay. What did he say? 4:2. 4. And we need to go to the Meiri. Again, weird site here. And I can only make it so big. Oh, can I not even zoom in? Oh, there we go. Okay. Lekach tov Torah ziyatozu. Kumo b'ni Torah ziyatozu. Milas Torah nemeres al panim rabim. Lifamim te'amer al tchunas hadavar al ezet tzad hanasis. Sometimes it is said about the procedure. Okay, so zos Torah ha'ola. This is the procedure of the ola offering. Lifamim te'amer al haTorah stam. Sometimes it's talking about just the regular Torah. The Torah schal Yisrael. Torah Hashem Tamima. That's Torah with a capital T. Zichru Torah Moshe Avdi. Sometimes it's talking about a component of the Torah. So I guess he's using our pasuk as a proof of that. Let's see if he gives another one. Sometimes about the unique portion of it. The Torah Yivakshu Mipihu. That's the aspect that we say that it was said before the world was created and created before the world. Okay, I think that's must be talking about like the design of the universe, like the laws of nature, because that preceded the, so to speak, the material universe. Sometimes it's just about teaching and instruction and teaching. Al pia Torah asher yerucha, rotz lomar al pia hahora, umizeh yikare afilu hora achas Torah. Yeah, so it doesn't look like he helps us here about where we get this from. Yeah.
Did you just choose it randomly, or there was reasoning behind your
There's probably
choosing?
reason behind it, and my guess, unfortunately, we can't do this because I don't think you can search on MG Keter. I bet if we look at other places where the Meiri says Torah is Shleimus Amidos, then we'll find like what intuition he's picking up on. So for tonight, I can't answer that question.
I'll do it for homework.
Okay, that'd be a good service. Okay, so he says the Ikra Hakavana, the essential intent, bo in the pasuk, Torah is that the Torah, Rotzlomar, in other words, ha'chelek ha'echad mimenu, the unique portion of it, he who chelek mitzvos hanosenes seder v'hanhaga b'kiyum ha'yishuv. Oh, he's answering it here. Okay, this is why I thought it was connected. It is the portion of the mitzvos that provides order and governance in the establishment of society, which is shu shleimus amidos, which is perfection of character traits. Okay, now I'm not convinced that we understand this yet, but I'm just going to go through the whole thing. Hu hamakor shemimenu yotze shleimus haseichel. This is the wellspring from which perfection of the intellect comes. Shehu achaim, which is life. The hefko mokshe mavis, and is the opposite of snares of death. V'hu ba'atzmo inyan hapasuk hanemar lamata. This is the same idea as the pasuk below. Yiras Hashem makor chaim. Fear of Hashem is the wellspring of life. L'sumi mokshe mavis. Okay, to turn away from the snares of death. Okay, we'll have to worry about that when we get there. Yiras Hashem, because fear of Hashem, whom yuchad l'shleimus amidos, is refers specifically to perfection of midos. Okay, so he's answering your question, Charlotte, by saying that I'll say what he's saying. I don't know if I understand it, but he's saying, okay, first of all, when he says ha'chelek ha'echad, I think he means ha'chelek, I think he means like the unique. No, but that can't be. Like, I think he's using it in the sense of like the singular portion from it. So he's saying that Torah, the main word for Torah here is referring to the component of the mitzvahs which basically organize society, and from there you're going to get perfection of intellect. Okay, so the question is, what does he mean by that? Let's just get the main idea first before we answer Charlotte's question. So what do you think that means?
It seems like it's a side effect.
Yeah.
A big part of the Torah is the mitzvot, and a big part of the mitzvot is to provide order and governance in a society. And in order to have that, you also need to have a perfection of character. Which
Okay.
I don't see the tie between the last two.
Yeah. So I'm torn whether it's like a side effect similar to what I was saying, that like through the perfection of Mishlei, which here he's saying is Torah, then perfection of society, then you can get perfection of intellect. The other way to take it is that the Torah does not perfect individual intellects. Okay, the Torah is not made for your intellect. The Torah creates a society in which the nation or the maximum number of people in it can perfect their intellects. And so an example of this is like, keeping Shabbos is not directly, if one person keeps Shabbos, okay, it'll be beneficial. But the real benefit of keeping Shabbos is something that gives a certain order to society, that Jewish society stops focusing on shaping and dominating the external world once a week, and we focus on cultivating our inner life, and Torah and appreciating stuff. And you need the society to be in place for that, Or maybe my favorite example is teshuva can be done. I'll say, I know I've said this example before, but I'll say it anyway. So one of my best friends growing up, Sean O'Neill, not Jewish, became a Ben Noach, and like learn Torah and stuff like that. And I remember one time, we had a chavrusa, and it was shortly before Rosh Hashanah, and I said, like, I'm gonna have to cancel on Rosh Hashanah, and Sean said something like, you're lucky, and I said, what do you mean? And he said, I need to do teshuvah as much as you do, because I'm a human being, but you have this whole week, or if you're Sephardic, month of slichos leading up to it, where everyone is like focusing on the approaching a serious teshuvah. Then you have Rosh Hashanah, where you have a whole 2 days of Yom Tov devoted to you don't work, and you are involved in the themes of Malchios, Yikronos, and Shofros, and focusing on the Yom Hadin. And then that kicks off a period of a serious teshuvah where everyone around you is involved in teshuvah, culminating in Yom HaKippurim, where you fast and you ask for kapara and you focus on the ideas. And for me, I just have normal society and I have to go to work, and like I have no societal support system. So you're saying it's so much easier when you have a whole society built around it, So that is the sense that I'm getting from the Meiri, which is that even though the perfection of intellect is the greater perfection, it rests on a bedrock, on a foundation of organized society around perfecting your midos, and that's what makes this possible. That's the general idea that I'm getting from the Meiri. And I have to admit, I'm getting this not just from him here. He says this a lot in the opening chapters of Mishlei. Like, he gives a bunch of analogies, like he says, again, I'm not taking a stance on what this means, but he says that chachma, meaning perfection of intellect, without musar, is like a diamond without a ring. Okay. Or chachma without musar is like a tent without pegs, meaning that the tent is the main thing and the diamond is the main thing, but unless you have a way to fasten the tent and keep it up, or a way to like display the again, assuming that diamonds are for jewelry, then it's not doing you any good, So like perfection of the intellect is the main thing, but you need a base in which to have it, and that's a society that revolves around order and good midos. Another example, like, I was talking with Zev about how in much of the ancient world, or he was saying how respect for scholars is a relatively new thing in history. And for much of the ancient world, who got respect is the warriors and the strongmen. Like, evolutionary, that's like how we're made. So what does Torah do? Torah has a hierarchy of giving kavod to Kohanim and Levim and to Chachamim and Dayanim, and creating a society that the high, we don't worship celebrities, we revere Chachamim, because that's going to be a midos order of society that lends itself to perfecting your intellect. Yeah, Ayala?
Besides for the societal thing, which like where he's saying the government's an establishment of society, like because he's also, it seems, highlighting perfection of character traits, which he also like circles back to at the end. I thought it was also tapping into the idea that like in order for the person to reach the source of life, like actual life, eternal life, they have to have perfected character, because otherwise they're not going to be able to perfect their intellect at all.
Okay. The only reason I'm not saying that is because he said that in the previous pasuk. Okay. And so you are right. He said that, and let's just review it here. Why wasn't it coming up before? This is 13. Oh, 30. Oh, that's why. I was looking at the wrong pasuk. That's why it didn't come up. 13:13. That was his third interpretation of last week's pasuk, which was he says, Shlomo says that if a person scorns the mitzvos, sorry, this is talking, okay, hold on a second. No, I'm all right. Never mind. I'm getting it mixed up with another Meiri. Yeah, so you're right, Ayala. And not only are you right, but you are that is consistent with what the Meiri often says. Is like you can't get perfection of intellect on an individual level without perfection of midos. But I think the reason why I went my way is just because he puts this emphasis on the order and organization of society. But your point is still good. Okay, so let's just summarize what we have, and we'll call it a night. So we had a bunch of ideas. So we had Isaiah, Rivki, David in the same general camp, which is that that if you follow the approach of a chacham, whether that's like just making decisions based on your intellect or whatever, so then it's going to set you up for a good life, and also help you steer clear of things that could lead to your like actual death or like severe, like permanent, consequences. And Rivki pointed out that the snares are the hidden things, and David said that the only way to avoid the snares is through the constant practice of this type of regimen. You can't say, I want to get to the snare, I'll avoid it. And that Rivki also theorized that maybe with the Chacham, it's talking about someone who's like getting knowledge from lots of people, and you'll be able to use those. So that's like Meiri used the word advice, or Rabbeinu Yonah also used the word advice. So I think that fits in with that as well. Ayala said that this is talking about someone who is observing a Chacham and saying that you should like take lessons from their actions, and it'll be a source of life. And even if you don't ascend to that level, then you'll avoid the snares of death. That actually lines up very well with Rabbeinu Yonah's idea. I didn't realize when we were going through that, of like listening to the Chacham and positioning yourself there, because it's all, you get news every day, and it's news in terms of new Mishlei, new Mishlei insights. And as long as you take that to heart, then you'll benefit. Then we had the Meiri's idea, which was that you need a base of order in society that is geared towards midos in order to facilitate the perfection of intellect from individuals. And then you had my idea, which is that that the way Mishlei works is that it nurtures you on the wellspring of life, but only as a means to avoid consequences. And eventually you end up like becoming interested in the Makor Chaim itself. But for Mishlei, though, you're just interested in the Torah of the Chacham, which is to avoid consequences. By the way, you can I said Torah's Chacham is the Torah of Shlomo. You could also say the teaching of a Chacham, meaning the type of teaching that a Chacham is interested in, of Haroes Hanolad, of avoiding consequences. Then that's what you should do. So this could be the recipient or the teacher. Okay, that ended up being a good. And then one more thing with the Rambam, that with Isaiah's idea is that the reason he uses it for Sefer Nashim is that all of the snares that you get from the life of Taiva that are really primarily dealt with in Sefer Kedusha, you're saved from that through the Torah of Chaim, through the systems of life, which are in the way that the Torah sets up the marriage and the household. Okay. Very good. I'm happy that we got this, even though there weren't that many meforshim. So success. Okay. Bli Neder, we're on for next week, and see you then.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.